this is a problem that the majority of people have, and there's no dedicated solution for it. Transform your insights into actionable knowledge. But you just have to be flexible and you have to communicate to all parties involved. I did the research. Yes, it's a risk, but it's a calculated risk.
But you started in Wall Street, right? And then you pivoted to creating an app instead. Is that right?
Yeah, I have a very unusual story in that I'm a person of color, immigrant woman that somehow ended up in Wall Street and thrived in Wall Street. So I did personal wealth management for close to a decade, actually over a decade. And what that entailed was providing financial advice and solutions to high net worth individuals. And it was a fun ride, right? You learn so
Yeah.
much, not only in that environment. And by the way, the Wall Street movies, all true. That cutthroat environment, very, very interesting and, tenacious. Um, but you learn a lot in that environment, not only from your coworkers, from the firm, but also the clients that you serve. These are very high successful individuals that have made it in life and they're willing and able to share their insights. So I had a fun ride in Wall Street and financial advisory. And then I did a very surprising move which shocked everyone. And I said, I am giving this all up and I'm going into tech. As somebody that had no tech background, no coding experience. I mean, this was unheard of and shocked a lot of people. But what I found is that there was a problem that needed a solution. And for whatever reason, no one was jumping or raising their hands to solve this problem. And I felt inclined that, this was my calling. And I made the transition over.
Yeah, that's a very bold move, especially when you have it, you're thriving, as you say, and making that move. So what gave you the confidence to make that leap?
So I'm a person, well, first, I think there has to be a certain level of risk tolerance to do something like this. If you're very risk
Yeah.
averse, then you probably are not going to be doing something the way that I did it. Maybe it will take longer or you'll go about it a different way. I take calculated risks. And so I did a lot of research. I mean, probably close to 4 months of just going to work during the day, researching in the night, just making sure that I have this business idea. Does it make sense? Will the revenue be there? What are going to be the costs and therefore the profits? What is the market, the industry like? And more importantly, can somebody like me that has no industry experience make it? And what will I need in order to make it? And it took intensive research, a lot of reaching out, asking questions, Googling became my best friend, and building up that knowledge. But once you do, and once you cross all the T's and dot the I's and do your very own SWOT analysis per se, that can empower you to then take that leap.
Yeah, definitely. So when was this in time that you made this leap?
This was 2023
Okay, nice.
when, and I'll tell the story about exactly how it happened. So I have two little girls, and we like to take them to a family vacation every year in Cape May in Massachusetts. Beautiful, beautiful area. And you would think that going every day to that place, you'll remember all the things that you need to bring, especially with little ones, or the places that you've visited because you go there every year. But the reality is that I found myself like, what? Hey, what was the name of that breakfast place we really liked? Or, oh, I forgot to bring this, and I told myself last year that I wasn't gonna forget. And so that led me to look at my system for remembering things, which is a system everyone has, which is writing it down in their notes app, right? Everyone writes things that they want to remember in their notes app. Everyone's guilty of it.
Yeah,
But
same
the
here.
reality is it doesn't work. You end up with a million digital sticky notes, and it's the digital counterpart of having a bunch of sticky notes in your desk. You wrote it down, but you can't find it, you can't read it, you don't know what it is or what it meant. It's a mess. And that's really the genesis of Mindify. I started doing research. Well, what solutions are there for this? Because next year I don't want to forget the name of this restaurant. Next year I don't want to keep doing this. And there wasn't any. A lot of the companies out there really cater note taking companies. Cater to the academics, so study materials or work collaboration. Hey, we help you and your coworkers, productivity, all that sorts. but not for personal use. And that was my aha moment. That was like, well, this is a problem that the majority of people have, and there's no dedicated solution for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can tell that it's needed. Because as you say, I use the Notes app just on my iPhone, but I find myself that I go back and read notes and I have no context of it. I see a note, I'm like, yeah, this is probably a good name for something, but I don't remember what it
Right?
was. So I'm like, yeah, I needed some context to it, which I don't. It's like the date only. I'm like, yeah, what did I do in April? Don't know.
Yeah. I literally had one of my favorite notes on my app. Sorry, not my app. In the notes app that I used to use, I had likes yellow.
Yeah,
I had Michael. When I tell you I had no idea, I was like, why did I even write this? I tried to see what was I doing around that time. I tried to kind of connect it to a person or a thing. I mean, it's a mess.
definitely. I agree 100%. So how does your what did you kind of come up with for solution for that? So
Yeah. So what Mindify does, it takes what's a primitive technology of a digital brain dump. You know, you write down your mental note and throw in a title, and it evolves it using modern day technology. So not only are you able to capture notes, but the technology allows you to organize the notes automatically. So you don't have to waste time building folders and all that stuff or connecting it to one another. It does that within itself. The other thing it does is that it transforms your notes. And I don't want to call it notes too much because it's really insights, you know, your knowledge that you gain day to day. Transform your insights into actionable knowledge. And what that means is, let's say, you know, you're like looking at yourself, oh, look, I have a mole on my hand. When I go to the doctor in 2 months, I'm going to ask him to take a look, right? Maybe you think that you're going to remember, you're not, or you write it down in your notes app, but guess what, now you're at the doctor's office 2 months later, you have a million things in your mind that you have to do that day, or you know, your brain is so scattered, most likely you're going to forget.
yeah,
What Mindify does is take it a step further and use smart reminders like location reminders so that when you're sitting at the doctor, it recognizes, hey, you have an insight here for this location that you wanted to remember. I'm going to remind you what that is.
starting a tech company without a tech background has to be a bit daunting, right? So how
Yeah.
did you do the coding yourself, or did you have to go out and find developers, or what was the plan
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I reached out to developers that suited kind of a robust list of what I was looking for. And I ended up with a great group that ultimately developed the app.
Are they local to the US, or did you go abroad for them?
They are a US firm, correct?
Okay, nice. Was it did you use any platform, or do you like, or was it through connections more?
In terms of how did I find them?
Yeah, I'm thinking if you use like Fiverr or Upwork or some other like platform like that, or if
No,
it's more through connections.
I kind of looked around. Well, first I asked folks like, hey, what are you using? And I kind of went into Reddit and other forums to see kind of what people were talking about. But
Mm.
the one platform that has served me very well is actually a platform called Clutch, where you
Oh, I
can,
might
yeah,
use
you
that.
can look for service providers like software developers, and it has a really good review um, system and metric where you can not only see reviews but kind of see the areas of focus that they have, and all other a whole bunch of other metrics. And so from that, I narrowed it down to 12 developers that in the US that I wanted to work with. I reached out to them. We did the whole getting to know one another discovery dance. And from there, I found the developer that I ultimately worked with.
Okay, cool. So you've been developing it for a while and it's supposed to be released now in early 25, if I'm not
Correct.
incorrect. So
Yes.
so have you had any sort of beta users or any friends testing it out yet?
Yes, yes. So I actually put the call out there and said, "Hey, I have this platform I'm creating. Does anyone want to try it out?" And to my surprise, I had a ton of people volunteer, especially moms that are like,
Mhm.
"My mental
Perfect.
load is just crazy," or "I have brain fog and I need to remember things that I typically forget." And from there, I got a good list of folks that tried the app. and really kind of validated the idea, which was so cool to see.
Yeah, that's good to get it validated. So has their feedback shaped the development of your app? Did they ask or want any features or insights that you didn't expect?
Yeah, the beta testing stage is really interesting because you think that it's idea validation, but it's also a feedback mechanism of what's working, what's not working, and what you should be focusing on for the next stage of development. And so from there, I got so many good points about, hey, we love this feature, or this feature, not so much. We didn't find it useful. And I actually, one of my features, I completely scratched out because folks didn't like it, and that's fine. And then there was other features where now I know folks like, well, this is cool. I've never seen that. I wish you would bring it more to the forefront. And now I know for the next stage that I will be doing that.
It's right, cool. So
Hmm.
how do you generate those insights? Is it using AI in the background or is it all like natively in the app?
In terms of the feedback,
Yeah, or more like the insights, because I think you said that people enter their notes and then you sort of get insights from it.
yeah. So the way that it works is you enter in your thoughts or insights or kind of plans. And so, let's say you are going to a restaurant, or you go to this restaurant, and you know that you like the steak there, but you don't like the pasta is bland, right?
Yeah.
That's an insight. That's a preference of yours. You also
Okay.
learn going to that restaurant that, hey, there's actually free parking in the back. Don't use the valet parking in the front where you have to, pay up. Again, something that you learned that you want to remember for next time. So you build all of these insights, knowledge based on your experiences that you're going to capture in the app in a very unique way. So what the app
Nice.
could do is two things for you. One, once you return to that restaurant, you'll get an alert saying, hey, there's some things here you want to remember. Like, don't order that pasta. You didn't like it.
Yeah.
The picture
Nice.
looks amazing, but it doesn't taste quite the same. And two, you have what we call a personal assistant. His name is Inky. And Inky can help you quickly answer questions about using the information that you have there. So if you're around the area where that restaurant is, you can say, hey, I'm around here. What would you recommend I eat? And Inky, using the knowledge that you have in that app, particularly restaurants and location data, can determine, hey, you actually like this place a lot, so maybe that's your best bet.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. There's one thing that I was really wanted to hear more about is because you're a mom of two preschoolers. I suppose they're still in preschool, right? And
Yes.
running a startup. So what's your secret to juggling both of that, without burning out?
Michael, it is hard.
I
I am
know.
not going to lie here and say that I got it all together, because I don't. It's an everyday, it's a new experience, a new day thing. But you just have to be flexible, and you have to communicate to all parties involved. Hey, I'm here, I can't be there, or I'm there, so I can't be here. The other day I had my daughters that were sick with a stomach bug, and I had calls, and I had, other interviews and stuff. And you just have to be flexible, and know where the priority lies.
Yeah, makes sense. That's a hard thing to juggle and
It
not
is.
burn out.
It is.
So when you left Wall Street for this, I mean, you touched upon it earlier, but when you left Wall Street for this, did you face any doubt from others in your, friends and family, or how did you push through that?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. And so imagine being this person that I come from a very humble immigrant kind of environment. And having a career is one thing, but having a successful career is being a role model to your family, friends, and community. And so leaving that so abruptly to jump into uncharted waters, something that is as risky as a startup, I mean, my mom didn't tell anyone, not one of her friends, about this, because secretly she was biting her nails for me. Um, but I explained to everyone, and thankfully they trusted my gut and my research and kind of me. I did the research. It's a calculated risk. Yes, it's a risk, but it's a calculated risk. And I would explain the numbers that I found, where the opportunities lie, and that this is a problem that needs to be solved. So why not me?
Yeah, makes sense. So now that you've been at this for how long actually? When did you leave Wall Street?
About, I would say a year and a actually left Wall Street about a year, have been at this about a year and a half.
So you've been doing this for 18 months ish. So knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently at the start or like during the process?
That's a really good question. Um, I would probably start marketing a little bit sooner than when I did. When I first started, kind of my process was research, then focus on the tech and development. And once I there was a prototype that was nearly done, that's when I kind of pivoted and started focusing on the marketing end of it. But marketing is something that takes time to build up. And I think that a lot of founders think like, oh, I'm going to set everything up and then I'm going to go into the world and everyone is going to know about me and there's going to be this brand recognition. It doesn't quite work that way. It does take time to develop. I would say probably takes 6 to 9 months for brand recognition to start spreading um, and
Yeah.
kind of soaring. And so, one thing that I would do differently is start marketing efforts a little earlier.
Yeah, makes sense. One of my favorite quotes from Alex Hermosi is just no one knows you exist, advertise more. And
Exactly.
that's always applicable, like
Yes.
regardless of almost regardless of how large you are, it's just advertise more.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like you need to remind the people also all the time, just remind them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a couple of quick fire questions here that I
Oh,
prepared. It's about 5 of them. You can reply to them, in just a word or expand on them if you want to. But
okay. Let's
let's
do it.
let's do them. They're always the good part. So, what's your favorite life hack to save time?
My favorite life hack. This is going to be an interesting one. Is using your dishwasher.
Yeah.
In my culture, this dishwasher is the lazy way to go. If you're gonna be pre-rinsing it, just
Okay.
just wash it and to get it done all together. But after my first child, it was, I was like, I can see the value in this. After my second child, I was like, oh no, this is my tool, my go-to tool. I can't be spending over half an hour washing dishes every day. Like I have things to do. I know this is a weird one in this forum, but use the tools that are there to help you.
That's the perfect ones. The non-obvious ones are the
Right.
the good part. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Right. So, what's one app or tool that you can't live without?
So I'm obviously gonna say Mindify, right? And the reason is like we've been beta testing for the last couple of weeks, and the more and more I use the app, the more that I can't live without it. So every time I go somewhere, I'm like, oh, what did I learn? I want to remember it for next time. Or when I meet a person, oh, this person said that they like yellow. So if I want to give a gift, I'm gonna, something yellow related or something like that. So love, love, love that app. And then just a tool would be AI in general. I mean, it's just kind of it's
Yeah.
a game changer to everything and everyone. And so I tend to ask ChatGPT everything from, hey, brainstorm some meal ideas to analyze this data. So very cool tool.
Yeah, agreed. I use it all the time, definitely.
Yeah.
If you could only track one thing in Mindify for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oof, that's a hard one because I use so much. Instinctively, I would think my grocery store because I have so many insights about what products I like and all that store and all that stuff. But I'm actually gonna select my husband's record, and here's why.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff. He's a very dynamic guy. He changes his preferences and kind of what he's into a lot, and it's hard to keep up with that. It's also difficult to give him gifts. And so one of the features
Mm,
that we have there is gift ideas for a person. He's the type of guy that he either already owns everything or he buys it right away as soon as he wants it. So how do you gift to somebody like that? So I think that that's probably the most valuable uh, piece of the app for me.
yeah, that's a very good thing. I don't have any system at all for this, but I do the same thing almost. Like I try to write down in my notes app what people when they say something like just in passing, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
Yes.
because now is the time to remember that, not 2 days before their birthday.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's really that was the thought behind that feature. It's like, well, if their month is 8 months, if their birthday is 8 months from now, and
Yeah.
you have this really cool idea, you're not going to remember it in 8 months, but now you
There's no
have a
way.
way to connect it to the person and the gift idea so you know exactly where to look.
Yeah, and also I find that when you do that, the person receiving the gift is like, "Well, how did you know I wanted this?" I'm like, "Well, you mentioned
Yeah.
it like 8 months ago," and they're really impressed. You remember that?
Yeah.
Which I didn't really remember it. I just wrote it down, but still, it
That's
feels like I
okay.
remembered it. So it's
It becomes
uh
thoughtful.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Instead of me asking 2 days before, by the way, what do you know?
Or asking their like spouse or their parents secretly, like, what are they into?
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that. Just writing down things as time passes. So what's a book, podcast, or resource that you think every founders should check out?
I'm going to share a hidden gem that I don't think a lot of people know about. It's a book called Grow Like a Lobster, and the author is Joshua Deck. And so in that book, he talks about how he transformed his family's business from a relatively small business to a global leader. And the way that he did that, he describes how he does this goes in parallel to the life of a lobster, which I had no idea about lobster and how they live their life, but it's really interesting. The whole premise is that as a startup, like a small lobster, you barely have a shell, you're forming your shell. And that's where you're developing your mission, your values, and all that stuff. And at some point of the business, as a small business, you're a lobster. You have your hard shell, but you're growing on the inside. I didn't know this, but lobsters grow even though their shell is there. And at some point, the shells burst, and the lobsters are
Okay.
very vulnerable as they develop their new shell. This author actually aligns that to the business cycle of if you're a small business, you're developing kind of all your operations, your missions, and all that great stuff. And you're building a shell, a brand, but you outgrow that at some point as you're transitioning from small to mid or from mid to big, right? And so he talks about similar to a lobster, all the things that you have to do within these business cycles to thrive. And it's a really, really cool book.
It's very interesting. I'm gonna have to read that. Yeah. And I'm gonna add that to the show notes also if anyone wants to check it out. But that sounds really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's a really cool book. I would recommend it.
And the last question here in the quickfire rounds is, I mean, you have Mindify now, of course, but what's a startup idea that's sitting on your list that someone else needs to start?
I don't know if I have a startup idea, Michael, on my list, but there is a problem that I'm seeing a lot of people talk about that nobody seems to be solving. So maybe that can help somebody, one of your
Yeah,
listeners today.
go for it.
So a lot of our parents are divorced and they're struggling to find their next better half. And how do you, as somebody in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, find somebody in this digital age where I mean, the traditional online dating is not going to work for security reasons, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
scammers there and all that stuff. How do you solve for that? I think that's a really unique problem that if you find the right solution for, you are going to have an amazing market to to take advantage of.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely. I feel that I think the pendulum sort of swings both ways, and everything's been going more and more online the past,
Yeah.
for a very long time. I think it might sort of swing the other way again. So we're gonna go more into like real life things. So maybe using like the computer and tech to get-togethers and network, not networking, but like yeah, something like that to move like meet IRL,
Yeah.
so to speak. Maybe that might
Or
be a thing.
organized events. I mean, there's ways to
Yeah,
use technology to help with this issue, but it has to be done in a way that really focuses on security, right? Because there's so many scammers out there, or folks with ill intentions, and the our parents are the most vulnerable out there in the
yeah.
online world. So how do you provide that service with that security? It's probably going to be the key.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good thing. Yeah, I think that people in their 60s and 70s, they're easily targeted for romance scammers and scammers in general and stuff. So it's Yeah, you'd have to solve that part. That's really good.
So if anyone out there takes this idea, just give me a 10% cut. I'm just kidding.
Perfect. Awesome. So to sort of wrap this up, if people want to know more about you and Mindify, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we're launching in early Q1, so look out for our launch. If you want to check out the app, it's called Mindify, MYNDIFY, and you can check us out online at mindifyapp.com.
Perfect. And I'll add it to the show notes as well. So it's not live yet, but do you have like a waiting list or something that people can sign up for? Or
I do. So online, you can join a waiting list, and that can absolutely guarantee that you have access to the app before most folks. So if you are super excited for this solution, if this speaks to you, join our waiting list, and you'll know exactly when it's live.
yeah, I'll do that right away.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yay.
All right, Angie, thank you so much for today, and well, take care. Good luck with Mindify.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.